entertainmentbuddha.com.
On with the Xbox One platform later this year in November. My name is Jeff Henshaw, and I'm joined by Todd and Frank, who are fellow members. Yeah. We love this because we are not PR people. We are actually engineers on the Xbox One team up in Redmond. And the last session, like someone asked a technical question that wasn't on the approved Q&A list. We went on a deep technical dive, and it was really fun. So, save your questions at the end, but we will take a few minutes to answer them. What we want to show you today are 3 tech demos, engineering explorations into what's going to become possible when Xbox One and the other parts of the Xbox One family of product services begin working together with game development and other forms of entertainment later this year. So I'm going to kick it off by launching right into our first demo. The first thing that we did was actually written by Frank himself. So we have the dude that wrote the code right here with us to help us really explore this in the best possible way. What we did was we wanted to explore ways that we could really bring Xbox One to life with giant sets of data. So we approached NASA because it turns out NASA has this really massive database of every celestial body in the solar system, right down to the individual asteroid, comet, and meteor. And while we were there, we went ahead and grabbed 35,000 light years worth of data out from our sun as well. So we have an enormous set of data. What we did was we programmed Xbox, actually Frank programmed Xbox One. I don't know how to do this stuff myself, but Frank programmed Xbox One to calculate the real-time position and orbital velocity and trajectory of every single asteroid in a subset between Mars and Jupiter. And that's what you see on the screen right now. The subtle motion that you see is actual orbital trajectories of about 40,000, that's what this number is, 40,000 real asteroids. And this is accurate in time and space. That is all being done by this Xbox One. The interesting thing about this is the computational processing power to calculate all of that in real time would have required more than 10 last generation consoles all working together. So what we have done with Xbox One is we've taken over 10 Xbox 360s and compressed all of that power into one elegantly designed next generation console in Xbox One. And that's going to open up amazing opportunities for game developers who are targeting Xbox One as their exclusive console of choice. But we didn't stop there, because there's a very important new feature of Xbox One, and that is it was designed from the ground up to be inherently connected to the cloud. Microsoft has hundreds of thousands of servers across dozens of data centers around the world. And because Xbox One can seamlessly connect to those, when there's a demand for even more computational horsepower than can fit in a single device, we can bring the full power of that cloud compute to bear on the problem. So what Frank did next was he brought in another 300,000 asteroids. This is enough to melt any console from any generation, including the ones coming out. It would leave a smoldering hole in the ground. But because Xbox One is able to dynamically pull in cloud compute resources, we're able to compute 330,000 asteroid positions and orbits. And this number here that you see is hovering right about 500,000. That is indicating that the Xbox Live Cloud is sending 500,000 updates per second to this Xbox One to keep all of these asteroid orbits accurate, which is pretty amazing and not possible anywhere else. This also enables some pretty cool techniques that are going to be evident in the games that you play on Xbox One this year. One thing you're going to notice is that some of the ones that are further away from us are rendered in purple. And those we don't care so much about, so we'll actually let them hop and tick a little bit because they're further away and we don't care quite so much about their accuracy because we can barely see them. But the ones that are close into us are rendered in green. And things that are close to us that we can see with great detail, we want to make sure they're really accurate and that the motions are really smooth. So anything in green that's close to us, green represents we've uploaded this compute to the cloud, those orbital velocities are being computed in the Xbox Live Cloud and sent back down as one of those every second updates to the Xbox One. The way this is going to impact games is game developers can now do things like focus the entire console on making really fast, really robust, really instant gameplay, and deferring compute to the cloud for things like foliage that's around you, atmospheric effects, bullet fire, gunfire, things like that. Those can all be offloaded so that you'll get an incredibly balanced game that looks more realistic than ever and behaves in very natural ways. We're also working with game development partners to do things like build infinitely large worlds. So more and more people can come online and they're never constrained by the size of a level or the size of a map. Because just like the cloud, it can grow infinitely large. And finally, a really cool technique that we see some games doing is they're developing persistent worlds. Because the cloud is always there, it's always on, it's always computing, you can drop out of a game, leave a world that your friends might still be playing in. And that world will persist and be subject to things like the passage of time and weather and damage and erosion. And when you come back online and rejoin the world, you may be rejoining a place that looks slightly different than the place that you left, exactly like the real world does. So these are all very exciting cloud-enhancing concepts that are going to be available to every single Xbox One gamer, because every single Xbox One was built from the ground up to understand and connect to this dynamic cloud resource. We're very, very excited about what it enables. So let's move on to the next prototype. The next thing that we wanted to look at was this new Kinect Sensor. Xbox is the only next generation console that will have a Kinect sensor in every single box. So every game developer and every media application developer can be 100% confident that they can use that camera and those microphones in very creative, imaginative ways. But the new Kinect sensor is a very, very different device than the old one. It is significantly higher resolution and has much better accuracy, so it is able to detect things like the movement of fingers versus the movement of arms. It can detect things like heartbeat and facial gestures. So we asked a really important question. Is it possible for a next generation game on Xbox One to become smart enough to recognize the motions that people are already doing while they play? For example, if you're getting shot up in a game, you tend to flinch and try to protect yourself from the gunfire. But it's really sad because that flinching does absolutely nothing in today's games. And if you guys play racers, going around a track, hitting a tight turn, if you watch your friends on the couch, they are leaning into turns and they're trying to steer things, and it's kind of pathetic because it has no impact in the game. We set out to see if the next generation Kinect with Xbox One could make it so that those things do have an impact on the game. And we have some very, very cool interactions to show you. So, we built a first-person shooter. It's the hardest of hardcore games. I've got both of my hands on the controller. I play just like a normal first-person shooter, move with my left thumbstick, aim with my right, shoot with the trigger. But when I'm getting shot up by enemies, and I flinch with my arms in front of me, a shield comes up. Like you kind of expect it to. And if I drop my shield, the shield actually drops in the real game. And it's nice and fluid and instant. And this works great for combating enemies that I can see. But there's several enemies in here that it looks like I can't see because they're closed. For them, I need X-ray vision. To turn on my X-ray vision, I tap my temple, and X-ray vision comes on. And I can even see through my shield as I go battle these bad guys. And it's completely fluid. I can tap it on, tap it off. So even though we're using gestures and the camera's involved in activating these things, it's still completely fluid and completely natural. It's not exaggerated. I don't have to put my controller down and stand up and wave around. It's just turn on X-ray, protect myself. Completely fluid and natural. So we think this is going to bring Kinect magic even to hardcore games. But this idea of racers leaning into turns had us really sad because we really want this to work. So we built this next level to watch for people leaning. And in this case, I've got some bad guys that are coming at me so fast that the controller is not enough to get me out of their way. If you watch carefully, I'm actually leaning, and my lean is being picked up by the camera, and it's used to help me dodge the path of the enemy. So you notice I'm still using my controller thumbsticks to move around just like I do in a normal first-person shooter, but in this case, this lean adds a dodge move that helps me get by these bad guys. The important thing to bear in mind here is that Xbox One and Kinect are treating my spine as if it were a thumbstick on the controller, and it gives me full 360-degree motion. The nice thing here is that the APIs that expose things like leaning are actually exposed to game developers as if they were a thumbstick. So to developers, they just see 3 thumbsticks, and they don't have to change how they think about programming at all. They treat your body like different parts of a controller, and it makes it very easy to develop these type of gestures into your game. For the player, I just do what I've always done. I just lean into turns, I dodge around enemies, and it actually has a meaningful impact on the game. For this last level, I've got some enemies that are so big I can't destroy them with my gun. I actually can raise a hand and paint them with a target and say, fire missiles. And my missiles will actually go and destroy him. It's the only way to kill those guys. Oops, like I've got one more. Fire missiles. This works great for things like swarms where there's really no way that I can individually target them. Fire missiles. So this is a great blend of gesturing and controlling all at the same time for even more epic battles. We're really excited about the opportunities that it exposes because this brings the best of classic hardcore controller gaming and the best of more subtle human motion into the gameplay experience in a way that isn't possible anywhere else. You have to have that sensor and you have to have that processing power in one system, and only Xbox One will have that in every single package that people are buying this year. So we've seen how cloud can improve things dramatically. And we've seen how the new generation Kinect Sensor is going to enable new experiences. For the last section, we're going to have Todd come up, and he's going to show us how Xbox One and Xbox Live can connect to more traditional forms of media, like broadcast sports.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Todd.
So I'm Todd Stevens. I'm the executive producer in our sports entertainment group. So yeah, if you're a gamer and a sports fan, I technically do have the best job. The team that I work with worked on the initial sports experiences that were on the Xbox 360, so ESPN, MLB, NBA, UFC. And what I want to do is use our newest partner, the NFL, to show you some of the work that we've been doing on interactive television experiences. So here it's Sunday afternoon, about week 2 of the season. I have Red Zone, so I'm watching Red Zone on live TV. I can throw that in the full screen. And like I said, it's live TV. I also know that on one of the other channels on HBO, that Game of Thrones is on. This is a preview from season 1, so there's no spoiler here. People were getting really pissed off.
People were actually like averting their eyes from the TV.
So again, I just bump. I get the one time. Regardless. Anyway, so I was at Game of Thrones. It looks different. See, this is season 3. It's a lot different. So now I'm going to go back, and what I can do is if I'm in that scenario, I can quickly and easily just snap in my NFL experience here, okay? So live television here, and now my NFL experience. These are games and scores from across the league. Have standings. I'm a Seahawks fan, so look here. I actually try to have them cheat, because this is actual stats from early season that make them 2-0, but left it there. A social feed, so this is curated from the NFL, so I'm following what's going on. And now, maybe Rich Eisen said something from a different game, and I can quickly jump over that game. Now, for people that play fantasy football, this is where everything's going to change, and I love this. So my Xbox One is smart. It knows the players that are on my fantasy team. Marshawn Lynch just had a big 36-yard run. So not only do I get an instant update here while I'm watching television, it tells me that a highlight's available. So I can simply come down here, launch fantasy, and I can watch that highlight real time up here in the companion panel. And not only do I have that highlight, but it again knows all my players, so it shows me highlights from all my other teams that I can easily jump down into and play. Also keep track of my head-to-head matchup for the week and my lineup. And we saw the one highlight from Marshawn Lynch, but maybe I want to go a little bit deeper on how did he get his other points. I can easily now throw this back into live television, keep it in full screen, and now use my smart glass. So basically took that snap kind of down here in the smart glass. We can even go deeper in the experience here, more stats. Again, if I tap that here, that's that same highlight that we were watching up here, now playing on smart glass. And even better that, now I have, as him being one of my fantasy players, I have an entire Marshawn Lynch fantasy reel, so I can watch all of his key highlights from throughout the season. So that's really cool stuff that I really like. So anyway, thanks for letting me show that.
You bet. So what Todd has shown is really rounding out an amazing entertainment opportunity that Xbox One is going to bring to market. We saw how the cloud and next generation Kinect are going to make games better than ever before. We're also seeing how technologies like Xbox Live, the cloud, and things like snapped applications can make even your live television broadcasts better than they've ever been before. These are things that are only possible when a console is designed to work with the cloud, work with a really accurate sensor, and work with all forms of entertainment. And that is something only Xbox One can do. So we're super excited to deliver this to you later this year. And that kind of marks the end of our tech demos. We have time for a few questions if you folks have any. Go ahead.
Question about the Kinect. I have at home this little game room, and I'm sitting like 1.5 meters from my television. Does it work?
1.5 meters?
Yeah.
You're right in the sweet spot at 1.5 meters. The new Kinect Sensor has a significantly larger play space than the old one. It's about 22 degrees wider, I think, and about 1.5 meters deeper than the old one, plus 2 feet tall. So you're going to be much more visible to Kinect than you were in past generations. You were next in the back.
Yes. Hi, my name is Fran. I'm with IGN.
Hey, Fran. Thanks for coming.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the demo. So my question relates to, I think, cloud computing and sort of capacity. So if I'm a developer, how do I know the limits of what can I do? Because it's not an infinite cloud, right? So, let's say I want to track every bullet mark that's ever hit my world over time.
So we're working with game developers to answer that question right now. We have staging networks that we work with game developers to stage as they prototype the games and build them out, where we can begin to do forecasting with them to make sure that we have exactly the right support that they need. That said, one of the interesting things we mentioned on Monday is that yesterday's Xbox Live was about 30,000 servers. To support the launch of Xbox One, Xbox Live is growing to 300,000 servers. But that is not the end of our capacity. We have many 100,000 more servers provisioned in Microsoft data centers for other Microsoft properties that can be drawn on during peak loads. So even if a game goes crazy popular and winds up spinning up much more cloud compute than they had ever forecasted, it's okay because we have the resources to cover them. And that's something that is kind of uniquely Microsoft in our ability to do, and we're very excited about it.
So basically like forecasting and reservation, and then over time adapting.
Exactly. With a great big reserve.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
You demoed in the game here the leaning features while you were standing up and holding the controller. I'm wondering
Does it
how
work
it's
sitting down?
Well, not as does it work. I'm sure you're going to say yes, but how different is it? And is there like a sensitivity level that needs to be adjusted, or because how you lean when you're sitting down is different from standing.
That's very true, and it's up to the game developer how they do that. But we've recently added new support to the Kinect development kit that allows Kinect to automatically detect whether someone is seated or standing. And if a game developer asks, Kinect will automatically adapt its skeletal reading based on its knowledge of whether you're sitting or standing. So unless game developers want to do really precise adjustments, they can just defer to the sensor in the system and it will take care of all of it. Yeah.
One of the things the Kinect made possible is some scientific researchers with face recognition.
Yeah.
On the University of Southern California,
they're doing some awesome work with Kinect for Windows and robotics too.
To see if someone is depressed. What other things are made possible now the new Kinect is coming?
Well, the new Kinect's increased resolution and accuracy allows game developers to do, like you mentioned, we can detect if people are engaged, we can detect who's speaking, who's laughing, who's sad. It's really only limited by the imagination of the game developers. So that's who we're working with right now to explore what they're interested in doing, what they're excited about doing, and building out the technology to support that.
So the next step will be that it can see emotions, and then the game is adaptive to that?
We'll have to look at the games to see what they come up with.
And there'll be more coming from Kinect for Windows from that group later in the year too, so more not from that side.
I'll take one more question. Go ahead.
I have a question about the television experience. It's shown the sport application. Is that adaptable? So, for example, let's say for the movie Blade Runner's on TV, and the distributor of the film wants to have a side panel for that. Is that something that it'll detect and then
Absolutely.
allow it to happen?
In fact, it'll do one better. If the entertainment provider wants to build a snapped experience or a snapped app, they can absolutely do that. And we can detect if one's requesting to show a snap pane. It can do even better than that because if you have Smart Glass on your phone, on your tablet, whether it's a Windows phone, an iOS, or an Android device, we have Smart Glass platforms for those platforms as well. And apps can also intelligently push content to those, and as long as you're willing to press accept, your Smart Glass surface will populate with companion content as well. So we got another group coming in. I'm sorry, I have to cut it off. I can't do it. We got another group coming in literally like they're waiting outside. So we will be around tomorrow as well. Thanks so much.
Entertainmentboober.com